man, oh man, oh man. This is a very interesting time to be a console gamer right now. And not in a good way, unfortunately. Oh man. So in case you guys didn't know, hold on, I'm assuming a lot of you guys do, but for the uninitiated, Xbox has recently just came out with a announcement stating that their consoles and their first party titles and accessories will be getting some price increases. Some of them not too bad, but some of them are very major. Primarily, games are going to be $80, which we've seen this before with the Nintendo Switch 2. So we already know how that's going to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sony were to do the same thing as well, make games or make their first party titles $80. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you guys, that's going to be the standard for gaming now. I know a lot of people are going to say, like, 80, it's not going to be that much or whatever, but I mean, we got to keep it real. $80 is here to stay, unfortunately, and I think that's going to be the new standard, which sucks because everybody already didn't like paying $70. I know I didn't, because every time I paid $70 for a game, I just felt a little piece of myself just crumble to dust every time I had to spend that much for a game. So $80 is just gonna hurt even more than ever, which again just sucks. But I mean, we seen this coming, man. We have, and I'm not gonna put all the blame on Nintendo, since I do think that would be a little bit naive to say. But we also have to be fair and say that Nintendo did lead the charge for it, because if, I'm gonna be fair here. I don't if Sony or Microsoft were to pull this off first, I don't think people would take it very lightly. I think there would be way more outrage if they did it. But Nintendo, I mean, granted, there was a lot of outrage when Nintendo did it, but at least with Nintendo, they can get away with it, kind of, because they're the big company, and they have such a huge audience behind them and stuff like that, to the point where I don't think the backlash would have been nearly as. I think it would have been far, far more aggressive and crazier if Sony or Xbox did it. So I just think Xbox is taking a little bit of the blow, but not as much as I think they probably would have if they did it first. And then, although while we are talking about Nintendo real quick, one thing that I really did not like, and I didn't mention it in my previous video because I simply just forgot, but they had this little feature. I don't know how many people actually use this feature or not, but they had like this gold points thing where, whenever you make like a purchase on the Nintendo Switch, you would get like gold points each and every time that you make a purchase. And, you could use those gold points to buy games or DLC and stuff like that. You can literally use it on anything as long as you have the required amount, and you can just pay for it with the gold points. Now they took away that system, unfortunately, so you can't even use your gold points no more. Which I feel like that shit was kind of lame. The fact that they took it away, because I was like, oh, come on, man, really? Like, like that was such a cool way to like buy like small little games that I probably didn't feel like paying like $1 for. I could just use my gold points and pay for like this cool game that I just saw on there. And it was a neat little feature that was there to be like, hey, you know what? We're gonna make it a little bit easier on you guys and give you these points, so that way you can, get certain games and stuff on there with your points. I thought that was just such a neat little feature, but of course, because it's Nintendo and now they're pricing games at $80 and prices, everything is just going up and up and up. It's like, no, you guys ain't getting that. So we can't even have the small things no more. That's how bad it's gotten. Like the current climate right now is so bad that we can't even have that no more. And I thought that was just so lame. I was like, all right, Nintendo, I see how it is. I really see how it is. And also backwards compatibility too. I also felt like it's crazy how like even the backwards compatibility, the thing that a lot of people are very much looking forward to as well, also seems a little bit shaky, because they also have like this little compatibility list with some games on there. Like, it's not a huge list or anything like that, But some games on there that I felt like shouldn't have been a problem, like the Mega Man collection and Street Fighter collection and stuff, are on there for some reason, and those seem to be one of the games that might have trouble running on the Switch 2 and stuff. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just the fact that like the backwards compatibility, even that alone for the Switch 2, just seems a little bit uncertain. You know, we'll have to wait and see how that actually turns out when the console itself drops and everything. But it seems like everything around the Switch 2 for me just seems too shaky. It's there's a lot of caveats behind it, and I'm just not interested in picking up the Switch. Same thing with Xbox. I mean, I know a lot of people hype up Game Pass and stuff, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I do think Game Pass, it's cool for what it is. It's just not something that I am too crazy about, or I would pick up an Xbox for, especially not right now, you know. But the biggest thing about all this, though, is that for me, I think I'm kind of at a point right now, just personally, where I'm just gonna stick to what I got right now. I'm cool on these new consoles. I'm fine. I'm gonna pass on them. Wait until they get a little cheaper. Whether it's like a discount or the companies decide, like, you know, hey, whatever, we're gonna do like a little price decrease. That's never gonna happen. That's very wishful thinking. I know that is very, very wishful thinking. But it's just gotten to a point, man, where I'm like, you know what? I think we need to stop trying to hype up these consoles. We need to stop trying to like get in on the hype, because you know, once the hype is like, once that's dried out and that's done and over with, people are going to be making the same complaints about the Switch 2, about the new Xbox, about the new PlayStation 6. It's all going to be the same thing every single time. You know, we have people complain about the Switch 1, people complain about PS5, they complain about the Xbox Series. It's just going to be the same routine, except probably worse, because, you know, due to the climate of the world right now, everything is like going up in prices and stuff like that. And the biggest issue I have with that also is the fact that, you know, the prices are increasing, but the quality is not going to match that price. And what I mean by that is that when these prices rises up, a lot of people are going to be expecting more from their games. A lot of people are going to be having higher expectations for the quality of AAA games, and a lot of people are going to be expecting their games to be complete on the disc, to have all the content that they could possibly have. They people are going to be wanting to have people are going to have higher standards, and they're going to be extremely picky slash cautious about what they're going to buy, especially when it comes to this $80 price point, you know, because again, it's just it's one of those things, man, where I don't know how we've gotten to this point where, you know, we, at least in the gaming community, where like we have to be on the hype every single time. We're like, oh man, we gotta get the newest system, we gotta get this, we gotta get that. And I always just find it weird when people are like, oh, the Switch 1 is dead, or the Switch 1, it had its run and all that stuff. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? The Switch 1 is still very much going to be alive even after the Switch 2 comes out. You know, will it be as active as the Switch 2? Probably not, but I always find it weird how people, like how some people treat consoles as if they have like an expiration date. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. Some of them, I mean, technically there is, because, you know, once companies stop making games for that system or whatever, then yeah, it's pretty much done and over with. But I just don't see. It's one of those things where it's like, just because something is new, that doesn't automatically mean it's better than the old. You know what I mean? And I think that the Switch 1, even after the Switch 2 drops, is still going to have a lot of value. I mean, heck, you're literally talking to somebody who still holds on to their Nintendo 3DS. I still have my PS3, my PlayStation 2. Like, I carry a lot of my old gaming consoles, and I still play them to this very day, because at the end of the day, man, it's just a different experience. I don't see these consoles as just like, oh, you know, once their time is up, it's time to move on to the next thing. I don't think like that. I think that's a very, I think that's just kind of a silly mentality, especially for like gaming. You know, gaming is one of those things where it's timeless. You can play them whenever you want. there's no expiration date on your enjoyment or what kind of games you should be enjoying or whatever. I don't believe there's a expiration date for that, at least in my personal opinion. So yeah, I think it's just I'm fine with sticking with my PlayStation 4/5 and also being a PC gamer as well, which again at this point I feel like PC is kind of like the most I feel like PC gaming is probably the best investment that you can do at this current point in time, especially since there's so many benefits behind it. Now, I recognize that most of my audience are probably console gamers, and some of them might not necessarily like PC, which I understand. I get it. I mean, you're talking to somebody who's a big console guy too. But at the same time, man, PC is kind of the way to go right now. I think that, sure, it can be a little pricey and stuff, but you got to think about the benefits compared to what these newer consoles are offering. And when you compare that to what the Switch 2 has and the Xbox Series and all that stuff, I just don't see why you wouldn't at least want to look into PC. I think it's definitely like some of my most fun gaming experiences I've had in the past couple of years have literally been because of PC, if I'm being completely honest. You know, that's not to say I haven't had fun on my consoles. I absolutely have, and I still love to collect physical copies for my games and stuff. I'm a very big physical guy, so I try my best to get as many copies of my games as I possibly can. Um, on hand with the actual disc or cartridge and stuff like that. So that's also another reason why I love consoles, is because not to mention there's also a lot of like great indie games and double A games out right now that honestly are kind of more fun than the actual triple A games that these companies be hyping up a lot of the times. Now, obviously, there are some triple A games that I do enjoy. I'm not going to sit up here and say all of them are bad. I think that would be silly. But generally, some of the most fun I've had when it comes to games is from smaller titles. It's from like smaller JRPG type of games or fighting games or indie titles like the Gun Vault series. I don't know how many of you guys are Mega Man fans, but if you played Gun Vault, then you know exactly what I'm talking about with that. Even on the JRPG side, you have stuff like Chain Echoes, which is phenomenal, a very phenomenal game for a cheap price point. Same thing with Sea of Stars, although I do have my personal opinions about Sea of Stars. Even though I don't think it's as good as say like Chain Echoes, it's still a pretty solid JRPG experience that I think some people will enjoy. And even my backlog, man, jeez, like I still have a huge backlog of games I still got to jump into and play. Like I'm excited to play that Expedition 33. I can't wait to get my hands on that. I got to go back and revisit some of the Yakuza games. I'm also working on East 10 Nordics as well. So even on the games, even when it comes to games, I have a huge backlog that I can just go back to and focus on instead of trying to like panic over the newest console or the systems and stuff. And I get it. People are going to want the new consoles because they want to play the new games and stuff on it, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to sit out here and tell you that like at the end of the day, you guys are grown adults. All y'all are grown as adults. I'm not going to sit out here and tell people what to do with their money, okay? But all I'm really trying to say here is that, it is this. All I'm saying is just to be critical and look at these consoles and just think about like, is this really worth it right now? Is this something that I desperately need to have? Or am I just cool with the systems and games and stuff that I do currently have, or the consoles I have right now, and focus on doing like collecting for those games and playing them and enjoying them for what they are, rather than just jumping on the newest console because it's hot right now and everybody's gonna want to talk about it. I don't know. I just don't have that kind of mindset where I need to jump on the newest thing. And I get it. Some people are not necessarily doing it just for that reason. They just want a better gaming experience as a whole. I get that part. But, a lot of this is just based off of my own personal perspective. It's just like I'm seeing the Switch 2. I'm seeing like the Xbox Series. And I don't even want to entertain the idea of a PlayStation 6 right now because I really don't like that. I really don't even. I don't want to think about how much 6 is going to cost. I don't want to entertain it, especially since this current PlayStation gen has been very, very mid in terms of exclusives and games and stuff like that. I don't even want to know how that's gonna play out. And quite frankly, as of right now, I'm not interested in finding out. You know, so I mean, the biggest thing for me, in my opinion, is just to for me. I think you guys should just take the time to look at your collection, play some games, see if there's some games that you haven't gotten a chance to get around to and play at some point. Or and who knows, maybe you might find a game in your library that you probably were not expecting to enjoy that much, but you might actually enjoy it a lot if you just give it enough time to, you know? I think this should be a good point in time to explore the games that you have right now, play them, have fun with them, and just enjoy what we have right now. Because I'm telling you guys, what we're going to be getting eventually in the future is not as pleasant as people are going to think. You know, with the way that everything is going, I just don't see things becoming all that amazing. At least not at this current point in time. I can always be wrong on this type of stuff, you know. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The gaming, we're talking about the gaming landscape. A lot of this stuff tends to change over time, and people's feelings and stuff are always going to change as well. So, I don't want to just like be one of those people that are going to instantly rage or just automatically hate the new systems. I'm just saying we should be a little bit more critical and cautious about what we're going to be investing into with these new consoles, especially with a lot of the new information going on. It's definitely something that I feel like people should think about. And yeah, I just wanted to get on here and just kind of express my thoughts on all of this because there's been so much stuff floating around, and a lot of it has me extremely conflicted, and I just had to get this off my chest a bit because everything is just it's very interesting. Whether that's good or bad, I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. I mean, I think you guys already know my stance clearly just based off of how I've been talking to the video so far. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comment sections below. Maybe you guys have a different perspective from mine. Do you guys think it's kind of bad right now, or do you think people are just exaggerating? I'm very curious to see what you guys think in the comment section. With all that said, this was your boy Kazak, and I thank you guys for watching the video. Peace out.